Hello, friends and fam. Here we are back for another episode of Frankie's Open Mic. I'm Haleigh Overseth, your host from Frankie's Podcast Network. I am here with my co-host, Alecia Maximo of Venora. Hello,
Hello.
Alecia.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
And we are here with Dr. Calvin Lawrence, who has very kindly agreed to sit with us for a follow-up episode after being on the Venora Effect with us. We so appreciate you taking the time out of your day to speak with us. We really do. Hello, Dr. Calvin. Welcome to Frankie's Open Mic.
Hello, Haleigh and Alecia. Thank you for having me on the show.
Of course.
We are excited to talk about your book, The Happy Leader. Now, obviously, you've got a background in business and you've got a lot of background in education that we got to
Mhm.
talk about with you on the Venora Effect. We do want to jump into your book and really kind of dive into the weeds a little bit. So I'm going to toss it over to Alecia because I know she's got some questions and she's got a lot of curiosity.
Yeah. Well,
Great.
overall, I love the title, The Happy Leader, because when we are speaking leadership, as far as the regular person, it is a tough job, because, it creates a lot of endurance, momentum, discipline to become an actual leader. Think of God or Jesus, right? They
Mhm.
led the people. So thinking of the title, The Happy Leader, it's a great psychology hack of, yes, I am a happy leader. I can be the happy leader. So far I love the title, very relatable, and it creates a type of psychology influence of the perception of leadership can be fun, happy.
Mhm.
It can ignite that fire inside of you to lead the people to the water, right? As they say. So to start off, my question for you for the happy leader is the themes of the I would say the themes of the empathy and the connectiveness come across very strongly in your writing in the book. So, how can leaders cultivate these qualities and environments where these values might not naturally thrive?
Okay, so let me make sure I hear you clearly, Alecia.
Mhm.
So, how do you create this environment where you say connectedness or the values?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, this is some curiosity that I have too, based on the previous conversation we've
Mhm.
had. Is,
Mhm.
you did talk about walking into some pretty difficult
Mhm.
environments and some pretty difficult circumstances,
Right,
particularly with
right.
working with youth. So, how do you create that space of where you can be fun and can be a happy leader
Mhm.
even when it is challenging?
Well, even when it is challenging, because I think, and Alecia alluded to like two great case in points about uh, leaders who have a tough situation, but they come in, and I don't think the ones that she alluded to were negative. I can't say negative Nancy's because she mentioned two guys, but negative Neds or whatever. They weren't that way. They came in and they were positive. And I'll throw this one in to start it. It can't be the fake or the toxic positivity. That's the term that they use now, where you're just trying to
Yeah.
be positive just because, but it's
Mhm.
based on a reason or rationale. And the rationale is I believe in that mission that I'm coming in to do. I believe in who we're serving. I'm excited about that. And now how do we get everybody else excited? And part of the deal is I've got to come in and then I've got to, as a leader, I've got to show that I'm excited about it, because if I don't get excited, nobody else will. So, but it's got to be real, and that's the key issue. I have up here. I've written in a couple of places. I know I wrote in the book. You can't be fake. I know people will use this term. I'm just gonna fake it to make it. I'm just gonna fake it to make it.
Mhm.
And I don't know that I've ever liked that phrase. Now I understand where they're coming from because they're just trying to make it through. And that's one way to do life and maybe one way to do leadership. I don't know. But it sure is not my way. So I've got if I'm gonna fake it, then it's time for me to get out of there or not take that job. If I'm
Mhm.
coming in, the role is I gotta be real, I gotta be authentic, I gotta be transparent. All of those words go in there. Well, I know we'll talk about that lighthouse maybe on that cover, but I've got to be the guy that's kind of showing the way. And so if I'm the one, then I've got to be the one. I've got to come in and I've got to show that this is how we do things around here now. This is how we've changed the atmosphere in this place now. we're coming in, we're positive and we're happy. I'm happy because I've got a role to play. And if I do my role right, then some people are going to be successful. Now, although education, because business is a little bit different, and business is productivity, and then at the end, the bottom line might be the bottom line. It might be financial, and if it's good, it's good. We know what it is. With people, it's a little trickier, but even with the people, in certain circumstances, you can see where it is with regards to if we're successful, because they're doing certain things. There's a certain climate. There's a certain some data that was negatively skewed is going to now be positively skewed because we're doing the right thing. So I know that I'm effective when I see those things happen. But in order to make it, if I get Alicia's question right, in order to make the start or the stab at it, I got to figure out the best ways of going about it. But I also have to establish that here's why I'm here. And maybe it starts with that first sit down, whether it's individually or whether it's collectively, and maybe a little bit of both. I think a little bit of both works the best in my recollection. But where we talk about where we're going to go, what's the vision? We had off screen, we had a little bit with you two and how y'all work so well. And it's like, y'all said something about your team and all this other stuff. And I'm like, oh yeah, I can see it because number one, they're supercharged. And then when the team comes in, whoever they're working with, you're gonna allow them to be a part of it. So here's the deal, y'all. Here's the deal. If I'm a new leader coming in, we are hopefully way past the stage where it's a top-down dictation. This is what I want to have done. Now you go and do it. The new leaders coming in today, if they're great leaders, and even the ones from yesterday, if they were great leaders, they included everybody. And that's what I kind of heard y'all say. And I was like, yeah, I'm in the right place.
Welcome.
It's like, y'all in the right place. These two girls are with me. They got it going on. I'm going to include everybody, because if I try to be a one man or one woman show, we could get some results, but it's never going to be as good as if everybody's bought in, everybody's tight, and everybody feels that they have some value and worth in this plan. So we got to, number one, got to make sure everybody, we are all there. We're all together. We know what we got to do. I don't care how tough it is. We know what we got to do. And then hopefully I shared this earlier in the other segment about consistency. Then I got to play that role of the consistency piece, where if I stay consistent, then they know this is a real deal. It's not like I'm just faking it to make it, or I'm just trying to go through the motions. I'm trying to get you to this, and then I'm a step back. And that person, the leader's got to be involved, very highly involved, especially at the very beginning, because people have to see you are invested, not only in the organization or the assignment that y'all have been given, but also invested in them. And then things start to happen.
I love that. That's beautiful. And I do love your book cover, the lighthouse with the compass. And what it makes me think of is, you talk about being a way shower, and that it's such a big part of being a leader. But then the compass makes me think of, that idea of your own true north that people kind of talk about. So you, both in your journey, right, throughout this like expansive, diverse life of business and leadership and education you've been through, and in this book endeavor, right, from writing it, choosing that cover and your title and all of that, can you kind of talk about what is that true north for you in that long, experience that you've had in all of these different spheres, but also in that journey of creating this book, of putting all of that experience, that wisdom, that knowledge together to share in this book? Like, what was that true north that kept you going and to complete the project?
Oh, great question, Haleigh. And the true north for me was, if you don't tell these stories, they won't get told. And even when I got to a point where, and I didn't share that first segment, so I'll share it this time. I had a year where I just said, the heck with this. I probably use another better word, but I said, the heck with this. I can't do this. I'm not going to do this. And everybody wants me to do it their way. And I want to do it my way. And I want to do it this way. And they said, so I gave up. And then that one person in my life that was still there passed away. And I thought, you know what? When I tell these stories, she lives on through the stories. The only way I can do justice to her life, my mom, is to tell the story and get the story out there, and hopefully people will receive it. And like Alecia keeps going back to that relatable word. It's so relatable because a lot of us have this saying, we've gone through some of these same scenarios in our life. Right. So I wanted to make sure that I did it, and we started out with them because they were foundational, mom and dad, and that was a compass, if I can say that, Haleigh, that made me kind of stay directionally correct. If I can use that. Now, I had to stay the course. I had to stay on course. That's a good one with the compass, because even with the turmoil and the storms and the seas and all the other stuff, it was like, this has got to be done. It's got to be done for their sake. Now I realize, even for my sake, it was cathartic because I've gotten it done and I have a different feeling, a whole different zest on life. And I don't always have to tell a story. Somebody can read it and then they'll tell me the story back. And I'm like, yeah, did I write that? I guess I did. That's what it was. Yeah, that's the story. Yeah. And that's a good story. So yes, that was my North Star, or my directional compass. Those two people in particular, but several others who were instrumental in my journey were the compass to guide me in the right, because I could have ended up on those rocks in the back. I think there's some rocks. Yep. I could have ended up on those rocks at any point in time in my life. I could have given up at any point in my life. There were several places in there where it was like, I can't do this. I don't know that I can do this in my own strength, but I was able to overcome it because I had the guiding compasses. I'll put a plural on it, to help me get to where I needed to be.
That is, I can really, Alecia saying the relatable, I can really relate to that too. I can, yeah. I have that same, my dad passed away of COVID in 2020, and there's mentions of my dad in a lot of the little kind of like stories that I write, my fictional podcasts, and including in the book that I do have published. And there is something to that, right? Like there's so much love that you have for that person. Yes. And for, so many people in your life, of course, but then once that person is no longer here in this physical human form with you, right, you do want to create something that is a bit of, if they didn't have the opportunity to put that story out themselves, you want to help them to do that. Yes. And my grandma is another one for me, that she was a writer too, and tried to get her books published and couldn't. And it's, it's one of those things that now I'm like, well, I want to do the things that I know she would have wanted to do for herself and would want me to be able to do for myself. And I do think that that's a really beautiful thing, that you have that kind of compass that is coming from that loving relationship. And I'm sure that does influence your happy leadership qualities. Yes. Right.
Yes. It's a huge influencer. My mom, really pretty much the last quarter or part of her life, she always had this saying about, there's no reason to complain, and why are you complaining anyway? It's not going to do you any good. So you may as well look for the better piece of whatever it might be. So her mantra was, I can't complain. And if I called her on the phone like it, because she was in Virginia and I'm in Texas and I'm calling, and she said, I can't complain. Well, then I'm looking at myself, well, why would I be complaining? Now, I got to give you a little bit of backstory. About 12 years before she passed, she had a stroke. So she had some issues that she could have complained about, but she never did. She did her therapy. She did all of her other stuff. She had some paralysis on her left side, but the Lord was good because he allowed her, because she was somewhat of a writer like Haleigh. So she wrote, and she loved to write people notes and letters and love and whatnot. And so it allowed her to continue to do that. But she could have been a complainer and just kind of sat back and say, hey, I'm bitter. I don't like. No way. That was not that girl. She was just a warrior, too much of a fighter to let anything get her down. Before she passed, about 3 years, and she had contracted cancer, but she never let the cancer, or at least I never heard her complain about it. And so there were some physical health issues near the end of her life. Now, remember, I didn't share it this time, but I think I shared it the last time. She was a nurse, right? So she was in healthcare, and she understood, some of those physical ailments. She understood it better than most people because she had been a nurse for a major part of her life. But she also reciprocated, and I've used that word a couple of times. When she had her nurses, she made sure that they knew that she appreciated them. And I mean, it was things like that, just little things. I'll share this. It's not that morbid, but at the funeral, there were more people who had been in the health industry that served her, that showed up than really almost family. I mean, the church was filled. This was during COVID, so we were spaced. That 6 feet kind of separation thing. They even separated me and my wife, by the way, and that was wild. But we packed that church that we had the service out, and the people were there because of her love for them. And so if you have that kind of love, going back to this happy leader thing, and why should I be happy? Oh, I can think of some songs. I can't break into them right now, Alecia, but I can think of some songs.
Oh, you can't.
I'm not going to do it. But I can think of some songs. Why should I be happy? Because I don't have any reason. If people like that can get joy even from the service that they receive back, then I have no reason. I have ability of my limbs. I have my mind. I have everything. I have no reason to be distressed. And if you're as a leader can convey that to your people, not in a kind of a talking down way, but in a talking in a relatable way, as Alecia likes to use that word. If you can convey that to your people, man, that's real, y'all. And it opens up some windows and some doors that won't normally get open if you allow yourself to be that transparent. So I encourage people. I know the old system used to say, don't let them know who you are and be real guarded and tough. And that was the old industrial age kind of, the boss, I'm the boss and you're the, but we can't work that way anymore. I don't see that in this room. And I know that the great leaders are, even the people that you talk about, when people talk about like Steve Jobs and all these other guys, they're the guys that are inclusive. So they're the guys that are looking for ideas from wherever in the room. They pay no attention to the cover of the wrapping or what that person looks like. I'm going with the best idea. I'm going with the person. And if you do that, then everybody feels value and worth. And that's the kind of leader you need to be. Boy, what does that do? It's kind of like that fight, or not the fight, but the kid I was talking about from the other episode. It's kind of like that. When people start seeing that, they only have to see it one time sometimes, and then all of a sudden, it's like the light bulb goes on, and this guy's for us. He's for real, or she's for us. Alicia's for us. Haley's for us. We got to get with this stick. I don't want to let them down. I love it when you have people working not for you, but with you, your coworkers, who don't want to let you down. They don't want to let you down because you are allowing them to see that side of you that's authentic and real, and they're touched by that to the degree that they want to work for you and work with you as hard as they can, as long as they can. That's awesome when it happens that way, by the way.
It is. And that authenticity is really big for both of us, Alecia, right? So I appreciate
that's right.
And I bet you
real.
yeah, no, go for it. I know that you've got a thought on that.
Of course, of course. Well, yes, definitely very relatable. Of course, when you're saying to be authentic and to show up as your real self, because you're right, Dr. Calvin, we are shifting into a paradigm now where the old structure and society of like you're the boss, I'm employee, it's not a thing anymore. Where we're craving that human connection, that community, the
Mhm,
dependence or the codependence, or even the co-creating with others, and
mhm.
we are wanting to show up for those people, and we are wanting to make sure they show up for us as well. But
Right.
it's a genuine connection that we're craving, and that's how we're striving and creating your own revenue streams, becoming
Mhm,
entrepreneurs, and we could do whatever what we want now with the internet, and finding our
mhm.
tribe and finding those people that can support us. So in the Happy Leader, you dedicated so much of your life to education and leadership
Mhm.
development. What inspired you to write The Happy Leader, and how do you hope it will impact your readers?
Well, I'm going to say that it was really the people who've impacted my life, like we were talking about, my mom, my dad. They
Mhm.
inspired me to write that. And I'm just thinking about the times that we live in. I'm thinking, there we need a little bit of joy in this thing, and
Yeah.
and
Yes,
and
we
turning
do.
some people around. Yeah, we do. And we
Mhm.
need and if just in a small way, if you read something like this and it triggers some thought. I know that I have read books, and I even have some books in the back of this book that were instrumental to me in terms of my walk and my way, and just changing my life and maybe perspectives. But if you read a book and it can do that, and books have power, words have power. Haleigh, Alecia, you both
Mhm.
know. And if you can do that, then I mean that's worth gold to me. So that's the inspiration. You already know the inspiration for finishing it, right? But the inspiration to try to do something that maybe would be a life's work, but maybe it would be something that could carry on, maybe a legacy, maybe it would be something to spur somebody else on. It was enough to get me probably out of my doldrums and say, you can write, you are a writer, you can be an author, you will be an author, and this is how we're going to do it.
Mhm.
Sometimes you really
Okay.
just have to follow the calling and trust that it is the thing that you're
Yeah,
meant to do, even if
Mhm.
you have, that inner critic that we talk about
yeah,
who voice
yeah.
in you that tells you that you can't, right?
Mhm.
And maybe talk a little bit about that
Yeah.
and the sort of overcoming those sort of the self-doubts that creep up because they are a part of
Mhm.
those old paradigms, the things that we've been taught by old paradigms, right? And
Yes.
how can you work through those individually and then also as a leader help others to work through those?
Yeah, how can I work through that? Because you're gonna have that sometimes when you come on the job and they give you the position, it's like, now who am I, and am I really the leader that these folks need? And it's like, you have, you imposter syndrome or whatever you want to call it. You just feel like I'm not qualified to do that. I will tell you that, and I've said this again and again. I'll keep saying it, and I guess Alecia will get tired of me saying it. But it's like I've got these people. I have these people who won't let me fail. They won't let me quit. And some of them are mentors. Sometimes they're people that you serve. But it's like, if you don't serve them, then who's going to serve them? Now, that's not trying to be boastful, like I'm the best, only the person that can do it. But I know
Mhm.
that something will be missing if I pull out. And I know I've got some work to do. And if I do it, then they get served, or I have to be a voice. Oh, I'll tell you. So I'll use talking about writing and then or speaking up when you don't feel like you're qualified to do it.
Mhm.
It is the calling. It is the purpose for why you do it. Whether you're writing this book to inspire some young emerging leaders, or whether you are trying to speak, because part of my Calvin Lawrence Speaks, of course, is speaking
Mhm.
and talking to audiences, is to inspire some people, because you have to talk for the people who have no voice. And
Mhm.
so if I can do that, then I know that gives me courage and it gives me the strength that I need. When I was I go back to maybe a story out of the book. When I was a principal at one of the
Mhm.
charter schools in a large city down here in Texas, Fort Worth, and in order to get the word out about our school, not so much to market it really, but just to speak for those people that I had in the building, I had to speak for those people that had in the building. And no one else in my building could speak like I could speak. Like if you send a teacher, it's one thing, and not to disparage the teacher, but the principal of the building is a whole nother story. Like the pastor versus the assistant pastor. When the pastor speaks, it's one thing. When the assistant pastor speaks, it's something else, right? So when the principal goes in and talks to an audience, and he or she goes and says, "This is what we're doing. This is how we want to be a part of the community." It's much more powerful than anybody else in that building. You're the campus leader. You're the leader. And there were times, Haleigh, when I didn't think I was qualified, or I had the imposter syndrome. And then I catch myself, because I knew that if I didn't talk, who was going to talk for me or talk for my students or my staff. And so I knew I had to do it. And then, of course, then the more you do it, the better you get at it, the more you get out of that. I can't do it. Oh yeah, I can do it. I've done it. How many times have you done it? You've done it 20 times. You better do it 21.
Bunch of times. That's
right.
Yeah,
so you can do it. But you have to get out of that. And the way to get out of it, to address the original question, is you got people that are counting on you to get this message out, to do these things, to write this book, or to do whatever it might be, or to do that Franki podcast, because they're counting, because they got to get this great content, right? And they got to be inspired. They have to be inspired, and they know Haleigh and Alecia is going to bring it, so they got to be inspired. So you got to get out of the bed, and even though the covers and the sheets are really good, you got to get up and you got to get that podcast in, because if not, there's going to be some people that are going to be missing out. They're going to be losing something that you don't do. So it's kind of like that. When you start to realize that we're all here and we're interconnected, then it becomes bigger than yourself, and then you become who you need to become. Yeah.
Right. That's right.
Yeah.
Very well said.
It is. And that's something that we do talk about. Alecia and I and some of our other colleagues, we talk about it a lot. Murray likes to call it interconnected leadership. And I do think that's true, right? We all have an interconnected responsibility to the vision that we have. It's that don't put everything on yourself, because you do have help support.
You do have help, right?
Building that around you. And so I did want to go just back a little bit here, because it's kind of sticking in my brain just a little. And I know
come on, Haleigh.
Right, we're on our entrepreneurial journeys, and we're in kind of the middle of things and building up, because you got to start from where you are, right? But I really appreciate what you said about not doing the fake it till you make it game, right?
Yes.
I really do, because that authenticity of where you are is valuable. And Alecia and I talk about this a lot, that there's not necessarily a whole lot of content out there of people who are on the journey. You see it after the journey.
After they're finished. Right.
But, and it's great that they got to the finish line. You don't want to take that away from anyone, obviously. But for people who are in the middle of it and trying to figure it out, showing that story of you're not the only one is really very valuable, right? To show people you're not the only one who's still trying to figure it out. So in the leadership roles, and if there's anything that you've mentioned in the book that you might draw from for this one too, please do share if you're willing to. But in those spaces where you maybe don't quite have all of the experience or all of the answers yet, but you've got that fire in you, how do you kind of handle that, being in that space, and also what kind of value do you think you have shown in different places in your journey where you've shared vulnerably that, maybe I'm not at the finish line yet, or maybe I don't have the answers, or this thing that we're working on isn't done quite yet, but I'm willing to show up and be vulnerable and share that I don't necessarily have all the answers, but I'm willing to work with you to find them.
Gotcha.
Right?
I can remember one instance in particular when you say that, Haleigh, where I was probably a second year administrator, assistant principal. So in leadership, kind of raw, kind of, ragged. And I used the term last year, and I was a rookie. I was, in whatever you want to call it, whether you're the first year police officer, first year podcast, first year, you name it. If you're learning, and you don't know everything, you're going to make mistakes. And what I did, and I didn't have the idea of what I was going to say to that audience that particular day, but I told them I was very vulnerable. I was very transparent. I told them I apologize for any mistakes that I made, but we're going to do it, and we're going to do this thing together. I'm learning, I'm getting better, and I know I'll be better this year because of what I've learned from last year. And it really brought down any walls in the room, and it made us have a successful second year. And I went on from there, but it was something that I don't know if I knew I was supposed to do that. It was just like, this is something I need to share. I just need to be real. It's probably going back. I'll put it on mom and dad. It's probably going back to my parents, just being matter of fact. They just kind of put it out there, and then you dealt with it. But it was that kind of a thing, but it had such a positive reaction. And then people came up to me. They not only came up to me after that event, but then it was different night and day in terms of interactions in the building, because they knew, we don't have to kind of like, hold this line against him because he's over there, and we're in this thing together. And hopefully that's the thought that I would try to convey anywhere and everywhere else I was during my leadership journey, because most of the years after that, I was in a leadership role at some point. So I learned a little bit from those beginning early stages about, I may have shared this the last time, that is not just a title, because a title is one thing, but earning the respect and trust is another thing. So don't just bank on having the title and just getting by with that. If you're a new leader, work on yourself, be who you are, be willing to be able to say, I'm sorry if you make a mistake. Going back to what Haleigh said about the old system, those old bosses never said they were sorry. They never made a mistake. Somebody else did the mistake, and they because they wanted to cover their miscues. But be willing to say you made a mistake. And man, I'm telling you, that even worked with kids. I mean, as a teacher, as a coach, if I made a mistake and I told them, and they were like, did he really say that? Because most of the time they've been used to people that covered up their mistakes and blame somebody else for the problem. But if you are willing to do that, and then let's work together to make this thing right, then you get a whole lot more respect and trust than you would ever get by trying to cover up stuff and trying to be Mr. Perfect. Because somebody said it earlier in here, we're not perfect. So don't try to be that person, because you're not. I'm imperfect, but we're gonna keep working on whatever we can do, and I'm gonna keep getting better. And I'll excuse the things that I can excuse and whatever, but you can excuse. But I'm gonna let you know when I make a mistake, I'm never gonna put it on somebody else. And I mean, I've lived by that, and hopefully that's the way it'll always be.
Right? It's important to take responsibility for your actions too.
Yes, yes, ma'am.
Right.
Yes.
It is. And I know that we talked a little bit about before the kind of the idea of having the right people around you. And I know Alecia and I, again, we're building our team, we're building our network, we're building up, these different things. And sometimes you do run into situations where there's sort of a difficulty, or maybe a power dynamic. Alecia, maybe you can kind of jump in here and kind of, what I'm trying to talk about here, right? Like,
Of
when you
course.
kind of have contending personalities, maybe, or how would you say, Alecia?
Yeah, of course. So I would put that as far as when you're working as a leader or a group or a team, and you're a team member out of that group, we of course run into people where they're like really money hungry, and like that's the main focus. Totally understandable. If you're trying to uproot your business from last year into the next couple of years, and you want to make a certain amount into your KPIs and into your revenue, totally understandable. But there comes a boundary and a limit where people can come to Haleigh and I and be like, this is my goal, this is how much money that I want to make. But the downfall, and I feel like the balance in between that, is who they are as a person and the energy that they're coming into our field with. And me and Haleigh are, we bounce in the same frequency. So when we get these abrupt people coming into our space with these demands and like this energy of like, you guys need to help me make this money so I can pay my rent, etc. It's like that's not the way that we operate.
That's not the
Like,
way
of
you operate.
course, if right, we of course you want to help all the people and help
Right.
people do
Right.
all the things, but if you're just worried about the actual tool, money is a tool, money is an abundance like water, right? It flows, it's energy exchange. But if you're just looking at it as the actual like product or the tool, that's where the unbalance is that you're coming to us with that mentality of, I just want to make money, that's what I want to do. But what is the value that you're providing to that type of contract, and how do we fit into that value? What's the best way that we can help that person? So to relate to what Haleigh says, there's a lot of people out there with that type of power, that type of abundance,
Yes.
and that type of investment strategy, but it has a lot to do with the person behind the money, the person behind the fame, the person behind all the fancy cars and the mansions of what is the value that you're providing, and what is the change, the impact that you're creating with your business and with the abundance that you have created. And how, of course, how can we help? But again, it has a lot to do with yourself as a person and where you see yourself. Not fake it till you make it, but you can act like the leader that you want to become every day, getting up out of bed, being there, showing up, even though you have no idea what's probably going on. At least you're there and you're in for
Right.
the experience. But when you're trying to fake it when you make it, people are going to see that and they're going to be like, you're just here, you have one focus, that's money. You can't get that far. There's
Right.
thousands of ways to make money online now with AI and technology, but in Haleigh and I's experience, we like to channel that frequency of what's the value that we're providing to the people and who we can help. And then now we are looking at the abundance flowing into all of our streams, into all of our frequencies, because we show up every day in that frequency firsthand of like, this is the plan, this is the momentum, let's keep going. So
Yes.
the challenge here is looking at the difference between those type of people that are just there for the money, obviously, and then the difference between how we operate and the team that we've been blessed with that operate on that same frequency. And it's just, the proof is in the pudding. When you are at that frequency and have that type of mindset, but you're creating a discipline with yourself to keep that mindset and to keep that momentum, the people will come, the abundance will come. God already has it figured out, but it's up to you to let God lead you to that path, or to that to attract those type of people that you want to become, or do you want to inspire to become as well. I don't know if that answered your question, but yeah, Haleigh, that's what I think so far
And
about
that is what I
about the
kind of would
biggest
like.
difference. Yeah,
Yeah, but
because
I love
you feel
Dr.
it.
Calvin. Yeah, I'd love
Yeah.
your take on that.
Mhm.
Like she's saying, sometimes you have these people who come into your sphere and they see the things you're trying to do, but they want to take the kind of old paradigm
Right.
and go,
Right.
what's in
Right.
it for me? How do you navigate that and maintain that, again, that positivity within you, and
Yeah.
also maintain the positivity of those around you that you know are on your same frequency, where they want to make a positive impact. They're not just in it for what they can get out of it.
Right.
Right.
Right. It's not easy, but it's easier because you are entrepreneurs and you're creating your vision, your mission, everything, and you're working it. So what's going to happen, ladies, is you're going to have people that are like that. They're going to come in. Maybe they got in through the back door. They told you one thing, but then when they surfaced themselves, you saw that they were a little bit different than what your mission and vision is. But here's the deal. I had one of my favorite leaders, and I think I reference him in my book, is that if you create this environment the way you create it, it's going to be really hard for that team member to stay with you if they don't believe in the mission and the vision you guys have. If your vision is about impact and positivity, and it's about changing lives and and then the money will come, as opposed to the reverse, then they're going to be like, this is not probably the place for me. And most of the times they surface themselves and they withdraw themselves. Sometimes you have to do it yourself. And he talks about that you have to withdraw that person, but you stick to your guns with regards to that, because going back to Alecia, the statement about not faking it, trying to do it, and then trying to change what you, because people will see through that. They'll see that, yeah, they told us they were going to do it this way, but now they're just really all about, the bottom line and the financial piece. But that's not the way y'all operate. That's not the way you are. And again, I think something else you said earlier too, that people will start to be drawn to you too, based on what y'all believe and not this other thing. They will know this is what they're about. If I want to be associated with this organization, then I need to be associated with what they believe in. And so those two things have to chime. We may not always agree about everything, but in terms of the priority values are, we're doing this because of this. Yes, they need to agree with that, and they in most cases they will.
Yeah.
The thing that's coming up for me, and like, I'm a big fan of Brene Brown, right? Daring greatly. That's one of, that's the quote that she uses is, obvious. It's a long quote. I don't remember it, from Winston Churchill, but the idea that you're going to have a peanut gallery all the time, right? Of people who you are. You're going to have people who are your critics, who are on the outside, and who are asking you to justify where you are, asking you, when are you going to get to that point where you have that financial solvency, or you have this or that thing, right? And you really do have to, again, stick with your North Star, stick with your true north, and the thing that that you're building, so that you can give yourself that credit a little bit, that you are that person who's in the arena trying. You're always going to have people who have something to say about what you're doing, but are they in the arena with you doing it?
Of course. And sometimes they can be really close, Haleigh. You can even have family members that don't believe in what your dreams are, and you haven't gotten there yet. So they're kind of poor mouthing you and kind of putting you down in terms of not being there. But you just stick to your guns. Just believe in what you. Bryn is a good one. I have another person that has made it, and they're kind of like reaping the rewards. But the lady told me one time, she said, stick to your guns. It took her 5 years and then some before she got over that hump. But now she's doing really, really well. But her main purpose, kind of similar to what you two ladies have, is it was bringing value and worth. And believe it or not, all the other stuff's coming behind it. That's kind of biblical. So she's doing what she says she was going to do. But there's always going to be those naysayers that will say, oh, well, you should have done it that way a long time ago. You should have changed your philosophy, or you should have, it's kind of like, when I said what I said about stopping out that 1 year with the book, and I wasn't so much the happy leader that year. I stopped out. I should have remembered some old lessons. And then I realized I got triggered by mom's passing, and that jerked me back into line to say, no, this is what I got to do. I got to get it done. I can get it done, and I did.
So speaking of family or people that are just naysayers, I would say both of my parents think I'm crazy. They're like, "What are you doing with your life, Alecia? You're not working for a company. What are you doing? You haven't graduated from college. How are you able to be this entrepreneur and attract all this energy?" And I think it has a lot to do with your self-worth, but also how you feel and see yourself into your higher self, right? Very going back to the biblical and like the energy and believing in the universe, is that God makes no mistakes. The universe makes no mistakes when he's bringing you the people to support your vision or your dream. And then you just roll with the punches after that. You're like, okay, this is the opportunity that the universe is providing with me or for me. And you just roll with the punches to your best ability. It's all a learning experience. And I feel like when you have those naysayers, I like to call them more the people that are motivating me to like prove them wrong, not necessarily like, oh, like let me show up and pop out and prove them wrong. More in the fact of like, they have a certain perception of their children or their sister or their uncle or whoever of who you were when you were young
way back
before.
when.
and
Yes.
not into the new version of ourselves
Yes.
today. So
Yeah.
that perception is not going to change until they actually see the actionable items or the big house, the fancy car, to be like, oh,
Yes.
Haleigh and
Yeah.
Alecia
Yeah.
actually did
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Haleigh and Alecia are traveling the world and doing this amazing thing and providing value and creating impact all over the world. So I feel like once of course me and Haleigh are like right there, that those goals are almost completed. Once
Mhm.
we actually touch the water and touch the gold, then people are going to be like, oh snap, we did it, we did
That's
it
it.
together, we
That's
have
it.
momentum, right?
Yeah.
And I feel that has a lot to relate to your book, The Happy Leader, of Haleigh and I being an example of each other and the leadership development that we've created, the momentum that we created together as a group and as a team to become these happy entrepreneur leadership
Mhm.
women that are leading the way, and providing the examples to our team members of like, this is the new paradigm. The more that we hold the frequency and listen
Mhm.
to the universe and keep going, that's going to create a whole totally different life for us, but also
Yes.
for our clients, for our partners, the people that we're working with. So I really appreciate the happy leader, and of course I want to read it from front to back because now I'm very inspired, Dr. Kelvin.
Well, I hope you like it,
Yeah,
Alecia. I hope you get
Yeah.
some great tidbits of some wisdom, and I can't take the credit for it because the stories are really about a lot of other people who've impacted me. So yeah,
Of course.
yeah.
I love
well,
that.
and I do want to, like, I thank you for sharing that, and I do thank you for the capacity you have to give credit to the others who uplifted you, because I think
Mhm.
that is a new paradigm of leadership that we need to see more of. People who are willing to say, I didn't get here by myself. I
I
didn't
didn't get
get
here
here
by
under
myself.
all of
Right.
them.
Yes.
And
I love it.
maybe that's something like, if you can kind of wrap up this second little podcast. You've like been so willing to sit with us. We so appreciate you for taking the time. But maybe talk a little bit about that for you. That
Okay.
go into how you are able to keep on going, and to allow the kind of noise, right, that might be out there,
Right. Right.
not
Because
to stymie that fire that you have inside you.
gotcha. Right. Because there is, and I'm hearing like you were saying, like when you're in the process, there's one kind of noise. When you're outside of it and a little bit behind it, there's a different kind of noise. So I'm in the different kind of noise now. I heard the other noise. Oh, I don't know if you can do it. I don't know if you should write it this way, you should write it that way. Now those people have kind of dissipated, but now you get a different kind of noise. Now, where is he going to go with it? What's going to happen? How's it going to? Yeah, how do you continue? Again, it's like there are the people that have a need, and it's similar to what you guys are doing in terms of looking at how you want to run your business. There are the people who need to hear this story, and they need to hear stories like this. They need to go through the process. They need to kind of look at what they're doing and look at what is success, what does it really mean. They need to think about the part about relationship and how important it is to have these people along the way with you, that you can't do this as a man or woman island by yourself, because it just doesn't work that well that way. And so all of those things are a part of this thing that kind of keeps me driven to get to that place that Haleigh, both you and Alecia are saying, because then that changes a lot of other things. And maybe even some of those naysayers that are so critical are like, because really, I think I'm hearing both of y'all. What they do is they look at the circumstances right now. They can't see your vision. They don't live your vision. They don't know your dream. And so I kind of have realized that I'm not going to be able to convince them of anything, and I don't even maybe really want to. But what I can do is what's in my control. And as I continue to do the things that I need to do, I won't even, when I get to that point, we all will get to that point, by the way. I'm gonna just kind of prophesy that over you, Alecia, and we
Of
all will get
course.
to that point where we're
Yeah.
going to have those things that we need, but we won't even do it the way they say traditionally, because we don't think like that. We're not in the box kind of thinkers. So
Mhm.
I'm good with that. I'm good now when I wasn't always good with this, y'all, about being an out of the box kind of convergent kind of person. I know I'm more complex than just one role. I know I'm a lot more intricate than that. But yeah, I know that I'm staying on the right course. Got the lighthouse in front of me. I'm going to keep it there. I'll be targeted. I'll get my direction, and we'll be okay. And when we get to that point, there'll be some of those people who will capitulate and they'll turn over because now they're seeing all this stuff. But you, Haleigh, Alecia, and I and me, I'll include myself in there. We're not even about the stuff. The stuff's gonna be secondary. It'll happen when it happens, but it's about making an impact and changing lives and doing some great things. And that's what it's all about. That's what life is
That's
all about.
right.
Yeah.
Exactly. I couldn't say it better myself, Dr. Calvin. Perfectly said.
I do love it. I so appreciate that perspective. And, Alecia and I do talk about it a lot sometimes. The reason that we keep doing what we're doing
Right.
is for like our younger sisters, our younger siblings,
Yes.
our like people who are coming up
Yes.
behind you that see you doing something different because you have vision, because you have passion, because you believe in yourself and you believe in what is possible, not just all the things that you've always been told or shown.
Right.
And I want to thank you, Dr. Calvin, for being a lighthouse, for being a leader, for being an example and demonstrating what it looks like to be a joyful person who can be in that journey, see the vision, and trust it enough to get there. It is really an inspiration for people like me and Alecia who are in the middle of the journey to look and say, someone else did do it differently. Someone else did believe in the positivity and the good that can come from sticking with it and looked for the good and not complaining. Like you said, your mom said, can't complain, right?
Right.
So
Right. There's no reason to.
I thank you so much for being that and for being that joyful energy and coming and joining us for a second episode. We so thank you for having the stamina to stick with it with us, right? Like it says a
Right.
lot about you, and I think it says a lot about where we are as a society, that we've come to a place where people like us can get together, have these conversations, and we know that there are people who are looking for these conversations in these
Right.
spaces because we've
Right.
been out there working with those people and finding them ourselves.
Mhm.
So I want to thank you, Dr. Calvin, so much for joining us for a
Yes.
follow-up episode here on Frankie's Open Mic. I really do appreciate your energy that you have to bring. And everybody, check out the links in the description for The Happy Leader by Dr. Calvin Lawrence. You're going to want to read it. Alecia, I'm going to give you your chance to say your thank yous because I know you've loved this.
Oh, of course. Yes. Thank you, Dr. Calvin, for all your stories and your experience and just being very relatable and a pillar of how to find joy and happiness in life through leadership, through being a happy leader. And I just really appreciate your time and you spreading like the word of the happy leader and that concept. Please go check out the book that Dr. Calvin spent his time writing and dive into it. It is definitely going to change my perception when I'm speaking about becoming a leader or want to share that with others. So I really appreciate you. Thank you, Dr. Calvin.
Thanks, Alecia and Haleigh. I appreciate you both. This was wonderful. I hope this won't be the last time you ever have me on your show. And
Of
I'm looking
course
forward
not.
to the great things that are coming y'all's way because it's coming.
Oh, yes. We see it.
Thank you so much. Don't worry. Like, listen, when you got the good energy you have, we're gonna lasso you back in for more podcasts all over the place.
I
Yeah.
like that. Hey, I
That's
love
what's
it.
gonna happen. Like, don't think you can get away from us that easy. You can't.
Nope.
We're coming
Great.
back at you.
Great. That'll keep me happy. That'll keep me happy, Alecia and Haleigh. Thank you.
Of course. Thank
Thank you
you.
so much. And thank you, everyone, for joining us for another episode of Frankie's Open Mic here on Frankie's Podcast Network. Do support us. You can check out the links below. Do the like, share, subscribe. Check out Dr. Calvin Lawrence, the Happy Leader. Read his book. Connect with him on LinkedIn because the beautiful energy you have to share, I'm sure you're willing to share with others. Everybody hit up Dr. Calvin. He is just good stuff. Thank
That's
you
right.
so much for joining us. And hey,
Yes.
thanks, everybody. We will catch you next time.
Yes. Take care. Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye.